If you're listening to this right now, chances are you've spent most of your life being described in one single word: quiet. Maybe it was said kindly. Maybe it was said like a diagnosis. Oh, don't mind them. They're just quiet. And somewhere along the way, you started to believe that word was a wall, a ceiling, a sentence, that the loud ones would always get the room, the opportunity, the love, and you'd get whatever was left over. I want you to take a slow breath with me, right here at the beginning, because tonight, we're going to have a different kind of conversation. Not a lecture, not a pep talk that fades by morning. Think of this as a long talk with someone who sees you, really sees you, sitting across from you in a quiet room, no one else around, no one to perform for. You know the moments I'm talking about. The meeting where you had the answer, and someone louder said it 30 seconds later and got the credit. The gathering where you stood at the edge of the room, holding a glass, rehearsing a sentence you never said. The teacher who wrote, "needs to participate more," as if your silence was a flaw to be corrected instead of a depth to be understood. You've been interrupted, overlooked, underestimated. And the hardest part is that slowly, quietly, you started underestimating yourself. But here's what I need you to hear before anything else. Before the plan, before the practices, before the 180 days we're about to walk through together. You were never broken. You were never behind. You don't need a new personality. You need to stop hiding the one you have. Over the next hour, I'm going to walk you through something real. A gentle, deliberate 180-day path, 6 months, designed for people exactly like you. Not a plan that asks you to become loud. Not a plan that burns you out trying to perform. A plan built around your nature, your energy, your quiet strength, so that by the end of it, the people who thought they knew you will look twice. Not because you changed who you are, but because, for the first time in your life, you stopped apologizing for it. They called you quiet, and they were right, but they have no idea, not yet, what quiet can do. So get comfortable. Dim the lights if you want. Let the world outside this moment wait for a while. Because the person who presses play on this video and the person who finishes it don't have to be the same. Day one starts now. Let's start with the lie. Because before we can build anything new, we have to gently take apart the old story. The one you've been carrying so long you forgot you were carrying it. Somewhere, at some point, the world taught you an equation. Quiet equals weak, shy equals broken, reserved equals less than. Nobody sat you down and said it out loud. They didn't have to. It was in the way the talkative kids got called natural leaders. It was in the job interviews that rewarded quick answers over thoughtful ones. It was in every movie where the hero was the loudest person in the room, and the quiet one was just the sidekick, the background, the one who existed so someone else could shine, and you absorbed it. Of course you did. You were young, and the message was everywhere. So you learned to see your own nature as a defect. You'd sit in class with the answer resting on your tongue, heart pounding, waiting for the perfect moment that never came. And then go home and replay it, asking yourself the question that becomes a quiet wound over time. What's wrong with me? I want to offer you a different picture. Stay with me here. Imagine 2 bodies of water, a shallow stream and a deep river. The stream is loud. It chatters over every rock. It splashes. It announces itself constantly to anyone nearby. And the river? The river is almost silent. If you stood beside it, you might think nothing was happening at all. But look closer. The stream can barely carry a leaf. The river carries ships. The river carves canyons. The river feeds everything for 100 miles in every direction, and it does it all quietly. Depth doesn't need volume. It never did. That's you. That has always been you. The noise you were told to envy, that was the shallowness. The stillness you were told to fix, that was the depth. But here's the part that hurts, and I won't pretend it doesn't. You've lost things to this lie. Real things. Think about the report cards. Needs to speak up more. Needs to come out of their shell. As if you were something to be pried open. Think of the times you were talked over at the dinner table until you simply stopped offering. The friendships that stayed shallow because the louder voices filled every silence before you could. The versions of yourself you never let anyone meet. That's a real grief, and it deserves a moment of honesty, not a motivational slogan. So take that moment, feel it. It's allowed to hurt. But now hear this, because this is where everything begins to turn. Your quietness was never the problem. Your relationship with your quietness was the problem. There's a world of difference between those two things. One says you're defective. The other says you've simply been holding a treasure upside down, wondering why it looked worthless. The extrovert's path to power is expression. The introvert's path to power is depth. Neither is better, but they are different roads, and here's what happened to you. You spent years being handed maps to a road you were never meant to walk. Every piece of advice that said, just be more outgoing, just put yourself out there, fake it till you make it, that was a map to someone else's city. No wonder you kept feeling lost. No wonder every attempt to change left you exhausted and ashamed. You weren't failing at growth. You were succeeding at being someone you're not, and that kind of success always feels like failure. So over these 180 days, we're not fixing you. Let me say that again, slowly, because I mean it. We are not fixing you. We're doing something much more powerful. We're taking the map you were given and setting it down. And we're drawing a new one that starts from where you actually are and leads to who you've always been underneath the hiding. The lie says, become louder. The truth says, become deeper and let the depth become undeniable. That's the road we walk from here. Now, before we step into the plan itself, we need to have an honest moment, because that word in the title, unrecognizable, is a big word. And I'd rather earn your trust with the truth than win your attention with a fantasy. So let me tell you what unrecognizable does not mean. It doesn't mean that in 180 days you'll walk into rooms cracking jokes like a talk show host. It doesn't mean your social anxiety evaporates, or that you'll suddenly crave crowds and small talk. And it doesn't mean becoming an extrovert, because that was never the goal, and honestly, it was never the prize. The world doesn't need another loud voice. It needs your voice, finally unhidden. Here's what unrecognizable actually means. It means the way you carry yourself changes so deeply that people who've known you for years will pause and quietly wonder what happened. It means you speak in the meeting, maybe just once, but you speak, and your hands don't shake the way they used to. It means you stop rehearsing conversations for hours afterward, prosecuting yourself for every sentence. It means you walk into a room and, for the first time, you're not asking the room for permission to exist in it. From the outside, these look like small things. From the inside, they are seismic. They are the difference between watching your life and living it. And here's the thing about how this change arrives. It doesn't come like lightning. It comes like a tree. Think of an oak. If you sat and watched an oak tree all day, you'd swear it wasn't growing. Watch it for a week, nothing. There is no single dramatic day in the life of an oak tree. No moment where the leaves shake and it visibly transforms. And yet, walk away, come back in 6 months, and you cannot deny it. It's taller, thicker, stronger, more rooted. The growth was real the entire time. It was just too quiet to see day by day. Sound familiar? Growth that's quiet but undeniable. That's not just how this works. That's your native language. You were built for exactly this kind of change. So, over these 180 days, we'll be building on 4 pillars, and I want you to know them now, because everything that follows hangs on them. The first is social skill without burnout, learning to connect in a way that works with your wiring, not against it. The second is confidence, not performed confidence, but the real kind, built like a track record. The third is energy management, because your energy is the currency of everything else, and introverts who master it become almost unstoppable. And the fourth is personal power, boundaries, standards, self-respect, the quiet architecture of a life you don't have to escape from. 1 month at a time, one pillar folding into the next. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. And here's my honest promise to you, the only kind I'll ever make. I can't promise you a perfect life in 6 months. Nobody honest can promise you that. But I can tell you this, if you walk this path with even imperfect consistency, messy days, missed days, doubtful days and all, you will not recognize how you carry yourself by day 180. And neither will they. The oak doesn't announce its growth. It just grows until nobody can pretend it hasn't. So let's plant the roots. Month 1 begins now. Here's where most transformation advice gets it backwards. It tells you to start with the world. Go out, meet people, push, perform. But you've tried that, and you know how it ends. 3 exhausting weeks, then collapse, then the shame spiral, then back to the old hiding place, only now with fresh evidence that you can't change. So we're not starting with the world. We're starting with you. The first 30 days aren't about becoming impressive to others. They're about becoming known to yourself. Because you can't build a new life on a foundation you've never actually examined. This month, we come home. Let me tell you about someone. I'll call him Ravi. Quiet his whole life, tired of it, decided one January that everything would change. So he did what all the advice said. Forced himself to parties. Said yes to everything. Practiced being high energy. And for 2 weeks, honestly, it kind of worked. People noticed. He felt momentum. Then week 3 came, and it was like someone pulled a plug. He couldn't get out of bed on a Saturday. Canceled everything. Felt like a fraud and a failure. And here's the sentence he told himself, the one I want you to catch. See? I tried. I'm just not built for it. But Ravi didn't fail because he was weak. He failed because he was following an extrovert's map with an introvert's engine. He was pouring fuel into a machine that runs on something else entirely. Don't be Ravi in week 3. Build differently from day 1. So here's your first practice, and it costs you 5 minutes. Every morning this month, before your phone, and I mean before the phone, because the moment that screen lights up, the world starts placing orders on your attention. Sit somewhere quiet for 5 minutes. No technique, no pressure. Just breathe and let yourself arrive in the day before the day arrives at you. This may sound too small to matter. It isn't. You're teaching your nervous system a new truth. The day starts with me, not with demands on me. For someone who's spent a lifetime reacting to the world, this is the first act of quiet power. Second practice. The self-inventory journal. Each evening, 2 questions honestly answered. What drained me today? What filled me today? That's it. But do it for 30 days, and something remarkable happens. You start to see your own patterns in ink. Maybe the meeting didn't drain you. The pretending in the meeting did. Maybe you're not tired of people. You're tired of performing for people. There's a difference, and it changes everything. This is your energy audit. Because here's a truth nobody told you. Introverts don't have less energy than extroverts. We spend it differently. Social contact is an expense for us and an income for them. Neither is wrong, but you cannot manage a budget you've never looked at. By day 30, you'll know your own currency better than you ever have. And third, because foundation doesn't mean hiding, one small voluntary discomfort every day. Small, voluntary. That's the whole art. Hold eye contact 2 seconds longer than comfortable. Ask the cashier how their day's going. In a meeting, say 1 sentence earlier than you normally would, instead of waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. 1 rep a day. You're not trying to be brave for an hour. You're proving to yourself, in 30 tiny installments, that discomfort doesn't destroy you. Confidence isn't built in leaps. It's built in reps. Now, somewhere in this first month, there's a moment waiting for you. I want you to be ready for it, because it might not look like much when it comes. One day soon, someone will invite you somewhere, and you'll be running on empty. And instead of manufacturing an excuse, the fake headache, the invented plans, the elaborate story, you'll simply say, I need a quiet night tonight. Let's do another time. No apology. No performance. Just the truth, spoken plainly. And when you say it, something in your chest will shift. Because for the first time, you won't be treating your need for solitude like a shameful secret. You'll be treating it like what it's always been, a legitimate part of how you're built. That's the day the foundation sets. The day you stop apologizing for needing solitude is the day you stop apologizing for being you. And everything we build in the next 5 months stands on that. 30 days, 5 quiet minutes, 2 honest questions, 1 small brave thing. That's the whole assignment. Simple, deliberately simple. Because the roots grow first, and the roots grow in the dark where nobody's watching. And then it's time to find your voice. Month 2. The roots are in the ground. Now we grow toward the light. And for you, the light has always been the hardest part. Being seen, being heard. But first, let me correct something you've believed about yourself for years. You've probably told yourself you're not good with words, that you never know what to say. Friend, that has never been your problem. You have entire cathedrals of thought inside you. You compose brilliant responses an hour after the conversation ends. You've written speeches in the shower, crafted perfect comebacks on the drive home, held whole debates in your head at 2 in the morning. The words were never missing. What's missing is something quieter and sadder, the belief that your words deserve the air. Somewhere along the way, you decided that speaking up was taking something that didn't belong to you, that the space in a conversation was other people's property, and you were just borrowing it. So month 2 isn't a speaking course. It's a permission course, and it runs on one deceptively simple practice. I call it the 1 contribution rule. In every gathering this month, every meeting, every dinner, every group chat that matters, you make 1 contribution, just 1. A comment, a question, an observation. But here's the part that changes everything. You make it early, within the first few minutes if you can. Why early? Because you know exactly what happens when you wait. The pressure builds with every passing minute. The perfect moment trap closes around you. Your heartbeat becomes a countdown. The conversation moves on, and suddenly it's been 40 minutes and speaking now would feel like an announcement. But speak early, and something magical happens. The pressure valve opens. You've claimed your place in the room. Everything you say afterward, if you say anything else, is a bonus, not a debt. 1 contribution. Early, that's the rep. Do it for 30 days, and watch what happens to the weight you've been carrying into every room. Now, a gift your introvert brain will love. You're allowed to prepare. Before a meeting, jot down 2 or 3 thoughts. Before a dinner, remember 1 story, 1 question you're curious about. This isn't cheating. This is playing to your strengths, because your mind does its finest work in reflection, not on the spot. But hear the boundary. Prepare your thoughts, never your soul. The moment you start scripting entire conversations, rehearsing your personality line by line, that's not preparation anymore. That's the old hiding, wearing a new mask. Bring bullet points, not a script. Bring a compass, not a cage. And now the secret weapon, the one hiding inside the very thing you've been ashamed of. Your slowness. You've spent years envying quick talkers, rapid-fire wit, people who fill every silence instantly. Stop envying them. Watch, instead, what happens when someone speaks slowly, when someone pauses before answering a question, actually considers it, and then delivers 1 measured sentence. The whole room leans in. Slow speech doesn't read as weakness. It reads as weight. The pause isn't a gap where your confidence fell through. The pause is gravity. Newscasters know it, leaders know it, and now you know it. You were never a bad speaker. You were a deliberate speaker, judging yourself by a fast talker's rulebook. Throw the rulebook away and own the pause. It was always yours. Here's the picture I want you to hold this month. Think of a lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't chase ships. Have you ever seen one try? It doesn't sprint down the beach, waving its arms, desperate to be noticed. It stands where it stands, rooted, calm, and it shines. And the ships that need it, they find it. Every single night, they find it. That's your model for taking up space. Not chasing, not performing, not shouting across the water. Standing in your place and letting your light be steady enough to trust. One more thing, because I promised you honesty in this conversation. Some days this month, your voice will shake. Your heart will pound so hard, you'll wonder if the person next to you can hear it. Your one contribution will come out quieter than you rehearsed, and your face will go warm, and the old voice will whisper, "See, you can't do this." When that happens, I need you to remember, the shaking doesn't mean you're failing. The shaking means you're doing the thing you've avoided for years, and your body is simply catching up to your courage. Courage was never the absence of the pounding heart. Courage is one sentence, spoken through the pounding. Every time you speak while shaking, the shaking loses a little of its power. Not all at once, but surely. 60 days in, you'll notice it. Rooms feel different. Not because the rooms changed, but because you stopped entering them as an apology. And that's exactly when we take on the thing that decides whether all of this survives. Your energy. Before we go one step further, I need to warn you about something. Because you're approaching the place where most people quit. There's a stretch in every long transformation, right around the middle, that I call the gray valley. The novelty of starting has worn off. The finish line is still too far away to see. The early wins that felt so electric in month one now feel ordinary, and a quiet voice starts asking, "Is this even working?" If that voice finds you somewhere in these 30 days, I want you to know two things. First, it finds everyone. Every single person who has ever changed their life has stood in that valley and heard that voice. And second, the valley isn't a sign the growth stopped. Remember the oak. Month 3 is where the roots go deepest, precisely because nothing looks like it's happening. Most people quit in the valley. You're not most people. Keep walking. And it's no accident that this is the month we master energy. Because energy, not motivation, not courage, not personality, energy is what actually decides whether you finish this journey. Motivation is weather. Energy is climate. And for an introvert, learning to manage it isn't a nice to have, it's the entire game. This is your secret weapon, and almost nobody teaches it. Start with the truth your journal has already been showing you since month 1. Social contact costs you energy. Not because you're weak, because you're wired for depth, and depth is expensive. So we stop pretending otherwise, and we start budgeting like someone who respects their own currency. Here's the first tool. I call it the social sandwich. From now on, whenever you can, you wrap every demanding social block in 2 slices of solitude. Big meeting at noon, guard 15 quiet minutes before it. No calls, no scrolling, just stillness, and give yourself a buffer after it before the next demand. Party on Saturday night? Then Sunday morning is yours, planned in advance, protected like an appointment. Solitude before, connection in the middle, solitude after. The sandwich. It sounds almost too simple, and yet this one structure is the difference between an introvert who shows up fully and one who's quietly rationing themselves through every interaction. Watching the clock, half present. You're not withdrawing from life, you're funding your presence in it. Second tool, recovery rituals. Not collapse, recovery. There's a difference, and you know it. Doom scrolling on the couch for 3 hours isn't rest. It's just a different kind of drain. Real recovery is anything that returns you to yourself. The walk without headphones, the long shower, the page of a novel, tea by a window, tinkering with something, with your hands. Find your 2 or 3 and treat them as maintenance, not indulgence. You wouldn't shame a violinist for tuning their instrument. Solitude is how you tune yours. And third, the hardest one, the word no. Somewhere along the way, you learned that no needs a defense attorney, that every declined invitation requires a story, an apology, a promissory note. This month, you practice something radical, the gentle, unexplained no. I can't make it this time, but have a wonderful evening. Full stop. No fabricated excuse, because every fake excuse quietly teaches you that your real reason is shameful. It isn't. Every honest no to what drains you is a yes to what you're building. That's not selfishness. That's stewardship. Now, somewhere in this third month, something's going to happen when you least expect it. You'll be at work, or at a family dinner, or on an ordinary phone call, and someone who's known you for years will tilt their head, look at you a little longer than usual, and say, "You seem different." They won't be able to name it. You'll laugh it off in the moment, probably. But later that night, alone, it will land on you like sunrise. They're right. The sandwich, the rituals, the honest no's, the 90 mornings of stillness, the 90 small braveries, they've been compounding in you, quietly, the whole time. That moment, the first time the change is visible from the outside, hold on to it. You've earned it one unseen day at a time. So let's pause here, just for a breath. Close your eyes if it's safe to. Day 90 is coming, the halfway mark. Picture yourself standing there, protecting your energy without guilt, speaking without a debt of apology, resting without shame. Feel how far that person is from the one who pressed play an hour ago, halfway home. And now that your energy is yours again, it's time to spend some of it on something you've never truly owned. Confidence. Month 4. The second half begins, and it begins with a word that's been sold to you wrongly your entire life. Confidence. Say it. And what do you picture? Someone loud, someone working the room, all handshakes and punchlines, never a flicker of doubt. You've stood next to that person 100 times and felt like a different species. But here's what I've come to believe, and what these next 30 days will prove to you. That picture isn't confidence. That's charisma. And sometimes it isn't even that. Sometimes it's just noise wearing a nice jacket. Real confidence is something much quieter and much harder to fake. Real confidence is simply this: a track record with yourself. Think about it. Why do you trust an old friend? Because they've shown up over and over for years. Trust is built from kept promises, and self-confidence is nothing more mysterious than trusting yourself, built exactly the same way. Now look back at what you're carrying into this month. 90 mornings of stillness you promised yourself and delivered. 90 small braveries, weeks of honest no's and early contributions and protected Sundays. You haven't just been doing exercises, friend. You've been keeping promises to yourself, possibly for the first time in your adult life. That feeling that's been growing in your chest lately, the one you couldn't quite name. That's what confidence actually feels like from the inside. Not fireworks, solid ground. So this month, we let it become visible, not by acting confident, by carrying what's already true. Start with your body, because your body has been telling your old story for years without your permission. The shrinking posture, the hurried walk, the way you enter a room like you're trying to minimize the disturbance, like you owe the room an apology for arriving. This month, gently, we rewrite it. Shoulders back, not like a soldier, like someone who's allowed to be here. Slow your movements down. Hurry is what fear looks like in motion, and you're done moving like prey. When you enter a room, pause at the threshold for one breath. One, before you walk in. Look around, arrive. You'd be amazed what that single breath communicates to the room and to your own nervous system. And yes, dress like the person you're becoming, not expensively, deliberately. Clothes are a letter you send yourself every morning. Make it say something true. Now, the superpower. Because month 4 isn't just about how you stand, it's about how you connect. And here, you quiet ones have been sitting on gold your whole lives. While the world was busy talking, you were learning to listen. Really listen. Not reload while they talk listening, but the kind where a person feels genuinely received. Do you know how rare that is? People walk through entire weeks without being truly heard once, and you do it naturally. This month, lean into it deliberately. Ask the second question. Anyone can ask, "How's work?" You ask what they said, then go one layer deeper. You said it's been a strange month. Strange how? Watch their face change. People don't remember the person who talked the most. They remember the person who made them feel like the most interesting one in the room. Let me show you what that looks like. Picture a dinner party. 8 people around a table, and one of them, the loud one, has been performing for an hour straight. Stories, jokes, opinions on everything. And in the corner seat, there's a quiet woman who said almost nothing. She's been listening, really listening. And then, in a brief lull, she asks one question, soft, precise, aimed at the person across from her. You mentioned earlier you almost moved abroad once. What stopped you? And the whole table goes still. Because that's the question with a soul in it. The conversation that follows is the one everybody remembers. Weeks later, no one can recall a single joke from the loud guy, but everyone remembers her. One sentence. That's depth doing what volume never could. But now, a warning, and it's the most important paragraph in this section. Somewhere around this month, things start working. People respond to you differently. Attention starts finding you, and there's a trap hidden inside that success. The temptation to chase it, to start performing, to become louder, busier, more on, to keep the applause coming. Friend, look at that temptation clearly, because it's the old disease in a new disguise. It's hiding. Performing extroversion to please a crowd is still abandoning yourself. You've just upgraded the audience. You didn't walk 90+ days to trade one mask for a shinier one. The goal was never to be impressive. The goal was to be unhidden. Stay the deep river. The ships are already coming. Because now that you've stopped asking the world for permission, it's time to learn what to do with your power. Month 5. And I'll tell you now, this is the deepest chamber of the whole journey. So let's slow down even further. What we're about to talk about isn't technique anymore. It's soul work. We need to talk about power. And I know, the word probably makes you flinch a little. Power to you has always looked like dominance, like the people who talk over others, who take up all the oxygen, who win by making everyone else smaller. You never wanted that kind of power, and that's to your credit. But because that was the only picture you had, you concluded that power just wasn't for people like you. And so you gave yours away, quietly, daily, in 1,000 small transactions you never noticed. Because here's what real power is for someone built like you. It isn't control over others. It's self-possession, the state of belonging entirely to yourself. And here's the question that reveals whether you have it. Where does your energy go? Think honestly. How much of your daily energy leaks into approval seeking, into replaying conversations, wondering if they're upset with you, into saying yes with your mouth while your whole chest says no, into managing everyone's feelings, softening every opinion, sanding down every edge of yourself so nobody could possibly be displeased? That leak, that constant, silent hemorrhage, that's where your power has been going all these years. Not stolen, leaked. And this month we seal the leaks. Let me give you the picture to hold. Imagine a walled garden. Inside, everything tender and alive that you've been growing these 4 months. Your peace, your voice, your rest, your becoming. And around it, a wall. Now, is that wall a prison? Does it exist to keep the garden trapped? No. The wall is the reason the garden exists. It keeps out what tramples. It protects what grows. Without walls, a garden isn't generous. It's just unprotected ground, and everything gets eaten. That's what boundaries are. Not coldness, not selfishness. Boundaries are the architecture of everything soft. The kindest people you know are not the ones with no walls. They're the ones whose walls let them keep something worth giving. So this month, you set your standards in writing. Real ink, what you will no longer accept from your schedule, from your habits, and yes, from people. How you're willing to be spoken to. What you're no longer willing to pretend doesn't hurt. Not as a weapon against anyone, as a covenant with yourself. And now, the hard part. The part I'd be lying to skip. When you stop leaking, some people will notice. Because some people, without ever meaning harm, built their comfort on your leak. The friend whose plans you always bent around. The colleague whose work quietly became yours. The family member who never once asked how you were doing because your role was to listen. When you start having a self, the people who preferred you selfless will call it change, and they won't all mean it kindly. You've changed. They'll say it like an accusation, receive it like a diploma. Most of your people will adjust, and those relationships will grow truer, deeper, more honest, more mutual than they've ever been. But a few may drift, and I won't pretend that doesn't cost. It does. Let it. Anything that only survives your self-abandonment was never a relationship. It was an arrangement. And somewhere in this month, maybe on an ordinary evening, journal open, house quiet, the deepest moment of this entire journey will find you. It won't be triumph. It'll be grief. You'll look back and see them, clearly, for the first time. The years you spent shrinking. The invitations declined out of fear, not preference. The words swallowed. The love not spoken. The rooms you sat silent in. The chances that went to louder people. The entire seasons of your one life spent apologizing for existing, and it will ache like an old fracture in cold weather. Let it ache. Don't rush past this. That grief is proof of how much you were worth all along. But then, and this is the turning, you must do the most powerful thing you'll do in all 180 days. You forgive yourself. Because that shrinking person wasn't weak. They were surviving, with the tools they had, in rooms that never taught them their worth. They protected you the only way they knew, by hiding you. Put your hand on your chest tonight and say it, out loud if you can bear it. You did the best you could. I'm not angry with you. And I'll take it from here. That's it. That's personal power. Not a raised voice, not a clenched fist. A quiet person, in a quiet room, finally on their own side. Everything after this is just becoming. Month 6, the final 30 days. And here's what might surprise you. I'm not going to give you anything new. No new practices. No new challenges. No final boss. Because the last month of a true transformation isn't about addition. It's about integration. There's a moment in every long becoming when the things you've been practicing stop being things you do and quietly become things you are. That's what these 30 days are for. The scaffolding comes down and the building stands on its own. You'll notice it in small ways first. You'll realize one morning that you didn't do your stillness practice. You just sat quietly with your coffee because that's who you are now. You'll catch yourself saying no, kindly and cleanly, without a racing heart, without even noticing you did it, and only hours later think, that used to take everything I had. You'll walk into a room, pause for your one breath, and arrive, and it won't feel like a technique anymore. It'll just feel like walking. This is the strange, beautiful anticlimax of real change. It doesn't feel dramatic at the end. It feels normal. The extraordinary thing becomes the ordinary thing. That's how you know it's yours. And then, somewhere in this month, comes the moment this whole video is named for. You'll be standing at the mirror. An ordinary moment, brushing your teeth, fixing your collar, nothing special, and you'll catch your own eyes and stop. Because the face is the same. Same features, same lines, same person who pressed play on this video 6 months ago, feeling invisible. But the eyes are different. There's someone home behind them now. Someone who isn't braced. Someone who isn't asking. You'll stand there, in a bathroom, on an unremarkable Tuesday, and understand what unrecognizable actually meant all along. It was never about the face the world sees. It was about the person looking out. Because here's the final truth, and I want to say it plainly. Your nature never changed. Do you understand that? You are still an introvert, gloriously, unapologetically. You still love silence more than noise. You still leave the party before the loud ones do. You still need your solitude the way lungs need air, and you always will. What changed was your permission. For years you were a whole person living on a partial license, permitted to exist but quietly, to attend but not to take up space, to think but not to say. And day by day, rep by rep, month by month, you took the license back and wrote it yourself. You didn't become someone new. You became someone allowed. All of you, finally allowed, Look back down the road with me, just once, before we finish. 180 days ago, a quiet person sat down with an aching hope and 5 minutes of morning stillness. In month 1, they came home to themselves, learned their own currency, stopped apologizing for solitude. In month 2, they found their voice, one early sentence at a time, shaking and speaking anyway, learning that the pause was gravity and not weakness. In month 3, they walked the gray valley and didn't quit, built the sandwich, guarded the flame, heard the first, "You seem different," and smiled all the way home. In month 4, the room started to notice, the straightened spine, the second question, the quiet one, who became the most memorable voice at the table. In month 5, they built the walls around the garden, sealed the leaks, kept the covenant, grieved the shrinking years, and forgave the one who survived them. And now, in month 6, there's nothing left to practice. Only someone standing at a mirror, recognizing themselves for the very first time. The spectator became a participant. The apology became a presence. The hiding place became a home. They said you were quiet, remember? They were right. You were quiet the way rivers are quiet, the way roots are quiet, the way dawn is quiet, right before it changes the whole sky. And now the sky is changing. There's just one more thing I want to talk about. What happens after day 180? Because this was never really about 6 months. So, what happens on day 181? It's a fair question. Every transformation story ends at the summit, roll credits, fade to black. But you and I both know life doesn't fade to black. The sun comes up on day 181 like any other day, and you're still you, and the world is still the world. So let me leave you with the wisdom nobody puts in the highlight reel, the part that carries you for the rest of your life. First, growth is not a straight line. It never was. It's a spiral. There will be days, weeks, even, when the old patterns knock on the door. A brutal month at work, and suddenly you're apologizing again. A family gathering, and you feel yourself shrinking into the old chair, the old role, like a costume that still fits. And the old voice will seize its chance. See? It didn't work. You're back to square one. Friend, hear me clearly. You are never back to square one. A spiral passes the same points again and again, but each time from higher ground. The difference between day 1 and day 200 isn't that the struggle disappears. It's that now you recognize it. You feel yourself shrinking and you notice, and noticing is a power the old you never had. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unbecome what you've become. Bad days now are weather. They used to be climate. Second, there will be quiet again days. Days when you don't want to contribute early, or take up space, or ask the second question. Days when you want to disappear into a book and speak to no one from sunrise to sunset. And I need you to know, those days are not regression. They're rhythm. You are not a machine that must trend upward forever. You're something more like a tide. Even the ocean rests between waves. The difference is this. The old you hid because hiding was the only home you had. The new you retreats the way a tide retreats, freely, without shame, and always with the return already in you. Chosen solitude is not the same as fear wearing solitude's clothes. You know the difference now, from the inside. Trust yourself to know it. Third, carry your gifts consciously now. Because being an introvert was never only something to make peace with. It's an inheritance. The depth that lets you feel a room in ways the loud ones never will. The observation that catches what everyone else walks past. The loyalty that makes your friendship a fortress. The inner world so rich you've never once truly been alone in it. For most of your life you carried these gifts like contraband, hidden, apologized for. Now carry them like heirlooms, openly, with the quiet pride of someone who finally knows what they're holding. And last, look around you. They're everywhere, you know. In your office, at your table, in your own family, the quiet ones. The ones at the edge of the room, holding a glass, rehearsing a sentence they'll never say. You recognize them now, don't you? Of course you do. You were them 6 months ago. So here's your final assignment, and it has no deadline. Become the presence you once needed. Not a preacher. Nobody at the edge of a room needs a lecture. Just see them. Ask them the second question. Wait out their pause without filling it. Make a little space at the table and guard it long enough for them to step in. You don't need to teach anyone anything. You becoming yourself, visibly, peacefully, without apology, is the teaching. Somewhere down the line, someone will watch how you carry your quiet and begin to wonder, for the first time, if theirs might be worth carrying too. That's how this thing you've done outlives the 180 days. That's how it outlives you. And now, there's just one thing left. Come sit with me for the last few minutes. I have a letter to read you. We've been talking for over an hour now, and the fact that you're still here tells me everything I need to know about who you're becoming. Think about that for a second. In a world of 15-second clips and endless scrolling, you sat with one long, quiet conversation, all the way to the end. Do you see it? That's depth. That's the very thing this whole journey is built on. Already alive in you. You didn't stay because you're broken and desperate. You stayed because something in you recognized the truth when it heard it. The seed was never missing, friend. It was only waiting. So let me read you this, like a letter. From me to the one who stayed. Dear quiet one, I know how long the road has been already. Before any plan, before any video. I know about the rooms you survived, the sentences you swallowed, the versions of you no one ever got to meet. I know you've walked out of gatherings and sat in your car in the dark, wondering why everything that looks so easy for everyone else costs you so much. And I know that somewhere underneath all of it, through every silent year, you kept a small, stubborn hope alive, that there was more in you than anyone ever saw. You were right. You were right the whole time. You don't need a new personality. You need to stop hiding the one you have. If you take nothing else from this hour, take that single sentence and carry it in your pocket like a smooth stone. Touch it whenever the world gets loud. At the very beginning of our time together, I told you. They called you quiet, and they were right, but they had no idea what quiet could do. Now you know. Quiet builds foundations in the dark. Quiet finds its voice and shakes and speaks anyway. Quiet guards its flame, asks the deeper question, builds the walls around the garden. Quiet stands at a mirror on an ordinary Tuesday and finally recognizes itself. Quiet was never the absence of power. It was power, waiting for permission, and the permission was always yours to give. Here's my last picture for you, and then I'll let you go. Think of the dawn. It's the most powerful arrival in this world. And have you ever noticed it makes no sound? No trumpet, no announcement, no demand to be noticed. It simply comes. Gray at first, so subtle you could miss it, then silver, then gold. And it changes everything it touches, every field, every window, every face, without ever raising its voice. Nobody argues with the dawn. Nobody talks over it. It doesn't ask the sky for permission. It just rises. Be the dawn. Take the 180 days. Start with 5 quiet minutes tomorrow morning. No, start with tonight. With 2 honest questions in a journal. What drained me? What filled me? That's day 1. That's the whole beginning. Not dramatic, just real. Exactly your language. And if this hour meant something to you, if somewhere in it you felt seen for the first time in a long time, leave the words day 1 in the comments below. Not for me. For you, as your first small act of taking up space, and as a light for every quiet soul who scrolls past and realizes they're not alone. If you want company on this road, subscribe and walk with us. This channel is a quiet room, and there's a seat here with your name on it. 6 months from now, someone is going to look at you, someone who's known you for years, and ask, with genuine wonder in their voice, what happened to you? And you'll smile. That small, unhurried smile of someone with deep water behind their eyes, because you'll know it was never about becoming louder. It was about finally being heard, starting with yourself. Good night, my friend. Rest well, rise quietly, and begin.